Hello and welcome to GBM Facebook Live. I'm Don Scott, and with me today, Michael Salamon.
Hi everyone, good to see you.
Better known to a lot of you as the Sleeved Chef. So that's something we had to take care of right now. He's got his sleeves rolled up a little bit, but tell us about the Sleeved Chef. Why that name?
So the Sleeved Chef really came from the weight loss surgery that I had back in 2016. It's called the sleeve gastrectomy. And so one of the ways I felt I could really give back to the community was through cooking and showing fellow bariatric patients how to cook and prepare, healthy food.
Okay, let's back up the story before that, though.
Sure.
How did you come to have bariatric surgery?
Sure. So I worked in the restaurant industry for a very long time. Went to school for culinary, went to CIA up in Hyde Park, New York, and I had basically consistently started to gain weight all throughout my 20s. And then back in 2016, I went to GBMC in Owings Mills, and I decided to met with my primary care physician and got on the scale, and he had made the recommendation that I consider meeting with the comp team over at GBMC, the comprehensive obesity management team over at GBMC, to consider bariatric surgery.
Okay, we got a lot of the GBMC plugs out of the way.
Yeah.
But can I ask, how big were you?
Sure, absolutely. So at my very heaviest back in January of 2016, I was 385 pounds. I'm 5'7".
Okay, you're back to now, how much?
Right now I am 230 pounds.
So you lost?
Lost my grand total 155 pounds.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's an amazing story.
Thank you.
Is there a parameter for bariatric surgery, which is a word I'm having trouble saying for some reason, but I mean, is there too big and too small?
Not that I'm aware of. I always think they use it more of like the BMI scale is what they typically go by.
Body mass index.
Body mass index, exactly. So they look at your height to weight ratio and what your BMI is, and then they will decide based on your BMI and your overall health whether or not the surgery is appropriate for you. But we've all heard the stories of people who have been much heavier than I was starting
Sure.
out, who have had the weight loss surgery and had, very much the same success that I've had so far.
I always think of it as patients, the 600-pound people you
Sure.
see somewhere. And,
Absolutely.
And then you also see the people that are 5 pounds overweight and saying, I better have bariatric
Right.
surgery.
Right, that's very true. I mean, it's funny with bariatric surgery. The shows that do have the patients who are very heavy, so much of it's a lifestyle change. The surgery is really a tool to get you started down that path, but you really can't rely on it fully. It's really a big lifestyle changer you have to mentally prepare for ahead of time.
Okay, and what about the people, Facebook viewers
Sure.
or posters who got to us before you got on here? Nicole Johnson says, what if you only need to lose 50 pounds? Will they turn you down for?
So that's a really good question. I mean, I think that's really something between you and your own doctor, and then really for the insurance companies to decide as well. And then again, medically, should you have the surgery? Have you been trying to lose weight in the past? And have you not been successful in that weight loss? But if you're 50 pounds overweight, I mean, that again could be, those 50 pounds could really be, dramatically improve your health.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, again, that's something to really consider with your doctor and discuss with your doctor.
And I would imagine 50 pounds could be impossible for someone to lose.
Absolutely, especially considering, there's certain comorbidities as well with being overweight. There's, diabetes, high blood pressure, what have you, that is really sort of, can make it very difficult to actually get on that weight loss journey, whether it's hindering your exercise or just, your ability to eat right, what have you.
Okay, and when it came time for you to lose weight, and before you talked to your doctor, why didn't you, do any one of the plans we see on TV with their food or without their food,
Sure. Well,
and lose your 120
Sure.
pounds?
Well, it's funny you say that. I mean, I had actually tried other programs before making the commitment to really going for weight loss surgery. I had tried, several other diets. I had done P90X for a bit. I had done weight loss for Weight Watchers for a bit, and it was just I had been unsuccessful, and that was very much of whether I was too young and I wasn't fully mentally committed to the process. I spent a fair amount of time too, just sort of dodging that weight gain, and just sort of like, oh well, I'm not that heavy. I'm okay. I can still walk. I can still sleep. I can still, but it's still you're in a lot of ways sort of kidding yourself. So I think everybody comes to that decision to have weight loss surgery on their own terms.
I can imagine it would be hard to diet and be involved in the food industry as well.
It's extremely it's extremely difficult. They say never trust a skinny chef, right? That's always the expression that you hear. But it is. I mean, the restaurant industry, you're surrounded by food. You're working very long hours. It's a very difficult work, and so the lifestyle can be very difficult and not really conducive to taking care of yourself.
We'll get to the operation side of it in a minute, but
sure.
How hard is it for you to maintain what you've lost and still work in the food industry?
Oh, sure. Well, that's a great question. So right now, I work in IT now.
Okay.
So I've been out of the business for a while. But for me, it's still it's really a daily struggle. One of the things I've found that's been really helpful is that it's forming the right habits. Really giving yourself that 95%, that 5% of maybe I'll have a little piece of chocolate here, or maybe I'll have a little bit of yogurt here, right? Like something that is going to curtail that potential binge for snacky food, because the temptation's always there. Mm-hmm. Weight loss surgery doesn't get rid of the temptation. I think that's something that's to be upfront immediately.
Okay.
Weight loss surgery doesn't get rid of that temptation, right? There's always going to be the temptation to have chocolate, to have high sugary foods. So it's really about changing that lifestyle and working to make those small changes that aren't going to sort of wreck your progress.
Okay. Wish I'd known you worked in IT now. I would have brought my laptop with me.
There you go.
I told you I had trouble this afternoon trying to get the thing to work, and you could have fixed it for me. Operations. I've heard people talk about having their stomach made smaller. Mm-hmm. I've talked about people who talk about a band. Is the band with the sleeve you're talking about?
So
are there other options?
There are, definitely. So you've got the so you initially had the band, which I believe they actually no longer do because they didn't see as much success as they do with the two current surgeries, the RNY and then the sleeve gastrectomy. And so the sleeve gastrectomy is what I had. So what they do is they basically make the stomach smaller. So they remove 85% of the stomach itself, and then. Yeah.
I mean, it's cut out and...
Exactly, yep. Cut out and
recycled.
And recycled, yes, exactly. There's a plant somewhere, I'm sure, that takes care of that sort of thing. And so...
and then they put it together?
Yes, exactly. Then they sew it back up and they make it much, much smaller. So 60 centiliters to 120 centiliters. So it's about 2 to 4 ounces. And that's why post-surgery, they really stress eating protein first. Because your stomach is so small, you really want to be able to get in, as much protein as possible. It's really starting off. So really drinking water, staying hydrated is the key thing. The majority of patients return to the emergency room post-surgery because they're not hydrated. So that's where sipping water slowly and allowing the stomach to heal is really a key element in healing after post-surgery.
Okay, I can see the two pieces in my mind now. They put them together.
Yes.
Where does the sleeve come in? Do they wrap it with something?
So actually what they do is so it forms a sleeve. So you've got the stomach here, and then they remove a big percentage of the stomach. Then they sew up that percentage, and then remove this excess.
So there is no netting wrapped around it?
Exactly, yeah. So it's meant to be like more of like a banana shape. Okay. Is the best way to describe it, I think.
And you mentioned two initials with the other option.
So there's the other one, the RNY, and that's I believe more of like a moving piece around. Forgive me, it's really my area of expertise. But yeah, no. So that's the other surgery option available. And again, that's just a discussion for people to have with their doctors and their primary cares to figure out which one of those surgery is best for them.
That's always what I thought of with the earlier one we talked about. I thought you had a little loop on your side that you could tighten your stomach.
No. That's Those are. I believe they're phasing those out if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, they probably should. So we're talking about invasive surgery. This is
absolutely
okay. So what kind of recovery time is there? Even before you start sipping your water.
Sure, yeah, it's a great question. So I spent about a week, 2 weeks off of work Again, just sitting and slowly sipping water. Spent about 24, 48 hours at the hospital just to make sure there weren't any complications post-surgery. They would really important to actually have you get up and walk around during your stay at the hospital after the surgery. Make sure there's blood flowing. Help them walk through some of the pain, some of the gas pain that's associated with the surgery, that's post-surgery as well.
So, so there's pain right after surgery?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long does that pain last?
So
Again, if someone's thinking about it. But.
Sure. So that pain, for me specifically, that lasted anywhere from 48 to 72 hours post-surgery. And that was just, so you've got the incisions, you've got 4 small incisions, so it's a laparoscopic surgery. So there's 4 small incisions on the stomach. And then there is and then you've got obviously the stomach itself that's sewn together. But the incisions on the stomach themselves will heal. Mine took about 6 months to heal fully.
So there was residual pain, or
there was a little bit of residual pain, but you have to be really mindful. It's like any major invasive surgery, it's going to be there's definitely going to be some recovery time. So I took about a week, 2 weeks off of work, just to really make sure that I really focus on those first 2 weeks, as those were one of the more difficult weeks, because you've got to stay hydrated, you've got to get food in. GBMC does a great job with getting a very specific program in place. To, okay, you want to drink this time, you want to eat this time. You really want to step through the process.
Now, talking to people who've had it before, they talk about their stomach being so small that they get full very fast.
Sure.
Okay. So after you've gone through the gradual process of introducing your new stomach to food, can you get too full?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, do you have a feeling for that?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I mean, it definitely, you can really tell. It's one of my big challenges, even now, even post-surgery, was I would eat so quickly, right? It's just like that unconscious eating.
I'm one of those. Yeah.
It's like when you're sitting in front of the TV and you've just got a snack and you're just, all of a sudden the whole thing is gone. You didn't even realize it. And so that's where one of the things that I really focused on was A, slowing down, and B, cutting my food and really focus on chewing my food. Because it really helps because the digestive process. It really helps in the digestive process by chewing the food more and more.
I always thought that being full as a normal person before surgery or whatever was more in your head than it was in your stomach. But you're saying
Sure,
that there is a physical limitation.
You can definitely feel it. So the stomach will stretch. That's what happened, for me. For anybody who's was heavier, is the stomach will stretch, and so it can stretch again even post surgery. So that's something too that's really important to remember, is that you can vary. The stomach again can still continue to stretch, but no, in terms of feeling full, I know there is a cutoff mechanism in place that neurologically tells the body that it's full. But even post surgery, it's still there for sure. You'll feel it.
Okay, I have 2 people who are close to me who've had some form of again, bariatric surgery.
Sure.
I'll get that word down. Yeah, and one of them I didn't know when he lost his big deal of weight, but the time I did know him, he was still a big guy, and he never got any smaller, and I'm talking probably 300 pounds maybe. And so, does it fail sometimes?
Sure. I mean, my understanding is that the reason they moved to both the sleeve gastrectomy or RNY surgeries is that they saw a higher percentage of success rates with those surgeries. But again, the most important thing to remember, I think, for everybody who's considering the surgery is that, the surgery is a tool. It's really, in the end, up to you whether or not you follow the process that actually comes with the weight loss. And that's eating right, and that's eating 3 meals a day, and that's eating your protein first, and that's drinking your water, and doing it consistently. I think that's really critical. Is there's preparation ahead of time, to where you have to really mentally commit to the process of weight loss, because the sleeves, the surgery itself is again meant to be a tool to help accelerate your weight loss and help serve as a vehicle to help you lose weight more quickly. But there's by no means any guarantee.
Okay.
It's like any major life change, right? I mean, there's really you could have it. There's it'll help you lose weight, but it's not going to be that like, oh great, I'll have the surgery and I'll go back to what I was doing before, those unhealthy habits that I had previously.
My father had quintuple bypass surgery.
Oh, wow.
Years ago in the recovery room. The first thing my mother wanted to know from the surgeon was, can I go back and make all his favorite foods again?
Sure. right. I'm going to assume the surgeon probably said no.
Yeah, he said, "Are you crazy?"
Right.
The other personal experience I've had is a woman who lost a great deal of weight. I mean, she became rail thin.
Yeah.
And then I didn't see her for several months. And when I saw her again, it was all back. So if you've got this smaller stomach, how does that happen? How do you go back to the old weight almost?
Oh yeah, well,
or the old size anyhow.
Yeah, well, it's it's like anything. It's you can very easily continue to overeat and fall back into those habits that got me there in the first place. It's when you're talking about weight gain, for me, I gained the majority of my weight early 20s to my early 30s, and it was a progressive system. I got up to 285, and I was like, oh man, I'm really heavy. I better do something about this. And then I would exercise. I would try to eat healthier, and what have you. But then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh man, I'm up to 320 pounds now. What do I do? And the more you gain weight, it's a lifestyle. That's really what I think it comes down to. Is just something could happen in your life, and it could just potentially set you off on a different path. So I think it becomes a habit that slowly builds up over time.
In this particular case, I was wondering if, I lost my train of thought along there, but again, she was real thin, and she got big again. Didn't she have to go through a painful process to be fat again?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I would assume that it's not only physical, but it's sort of the mental, the emotional aspect that's tied with eating, right? I mean, that's food for the longest time. I mean, even for me, I used food as a crutch for a very long time to deal with emotions that I didn't want to process. And so I think a lot of people, there's the emotional pain of eating, because how do you you need food to survive, right? But at the same time, like I love this thing, but at the same time, it's sort of a double-edged sword, because I love it, but at the same time, it's making me unhealthy, and my habits are making me unhealthy. I think that's really the main thing. So many times, even for me, pre-surgery, I really had to come to terms with my relationship with food and process and improve my relationship with food, both mentally and physically. Because it can certainly be from a physical aspect. I mean, you can very easily overeat. Having the smaller stomach, there's something called dumping syndrome, and it's basically where you overeat and the food just comes right back up. And it's a very serious thing, and it's something that's where they tell you to slow down and to cut your food and to chew your food and to go through all those things. So I definitely think there's for your friend, it's more oftentimes with people, there's underlying conditions behind weight increase.
I think she may be happy that she's back at her old self at the moment. But you're talking with this process where the food comes back up. You're not talking about where you do it physically.
No, not at all. It
just happens.
Yeah, it can happen with dumping syndrome. Can happen with very creamy fatty foods, as well as spicier foods, or you simply overeat and you just you vomit. It's a very real thing. That's where they really stress, sort of improving your relationship with food, and being able to, chew your food thoroughly and what have you.
Okay, I want to talk about the sleeve chef in just a minute. But,
sure.
We've got another question.
Sure.
Somebody was interested in having some sort of bariatric surgery for themselves. And should point out that if you want to ask us a question, you can just by doing the comment section on it. We have one there. Did I get it here? I don't think I did. I didn't get it passed on. So Mindy will try to get it to me in a minute here. But so what do you say to someone who knows your background and says, should I have this surgery for myself?
Yeah.
How do you answer them?
That's a great question. So I think there's a lot of factors. Everyone's journey for weight loss surgery is unique, and so I would say for them it's why do you want to have surgery? That's really, I think, the first main question is it vanity? Is it I've spent, I want to look good, I want to feel good about myself. Is it
the bikini, the Speedo thing?
Right, exactly. Oh, I want six-pack abs, and
Yes.
the easiest way to do that is to have weight loss surgery because it's going to be a lot easier for me to lose weight. Everybody has the reasons for doing it. Or is it I want to improve the quality of my life? I want to be there for my friends and for my family and for my kids. Or or is it my primary care physician said. My primary care physician, said, you're really unhealthy, and if you keep down this path, you're looking at a very serious set of medical conditions ahead of time. If you don't do something now, and then I would say okay. Then I would say, your next step is to meet with your doctor, talk with your doctor, and see if they recommend it. See if your primary care physician recommends having bariatric surgery.
So you don't really make the decision for yourself then.
Well, I think
first you have to have some expert opinion.
Absolutely, yeah. I certainly think that you can say something to your doctor, and I think that's where it's really important to be open with your doctor, and say to them, look, I've tried multiple weight loss programs. I've tried multiple diets. I want to live a long, happy, successful life. I'm thinking about bariatric surgery as a possible solution. What do you think? And see what they say. And I think that's just it's a very humbling but important conversation, I think, to have with yourself. I know it was for me.
Did you consider it the easy way?
Yeah, I mean, there were times in my head where I'm like, man, this is, am I cheating? Right? It was a really sort of brutally hard question, but I was, as I learned more about it and the process of actually going through the surgery, I learned that it's not the easy way. It's really not. It's something that the surgery is a tool. It's a tool to help you and to help accelerate your weight loss. But you still have to eat properly. You still have to take care of yourself. Both you have to sleep well. You have to take care of yourself mentally. You have to eat properly. You have to eat the right proteins. You have to follow the program. The more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it. And then you have to also, you have to fight back your own demons. You have to be willing to have those conversations and say, listen, I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to have chocolate. I'm going to have a donut. I'm going to give in to my previous temptations, but that doesn't mean that I've failed. That just means that I have to get myself back on track.
Okay, you mentioned six-pack abs, which made me think of doing crunches. I was going to jump down on the floor and start doing some crunches. And someone watching us right now asked, does the surgery impact the exercise you have to do? You haven't mentioned exercise at all.
That's a great point. So I actually, exercise is just another critical piece to really help with the weight loss. And so your doctors will really say, they want you to start off like I did. I started off just by walking. And GBMC's got a great program, Comp to 5K, that they do with Run GBMC, where you meet and you go and you just get in the process of just walking, even if it's just walking. Mm-hmm. Even walking is it's so good for you. It's something that's simple. It'll help you burn calories. It may not feel like a lot, but trust me, it's just going to get you in the right path. And then for exercise, the more strenuous stuff, you'll want to wait and really talk it over with your doctor or your surgeon. Say, hey, when can I start getting back to weights? When can I start getting back to doing cardiovascular fitness?
Okay. We wouldn't want to do that for his crunch and go, oh. Well, thank you for the questions. And again, you can keep sending them if you wish. Now let's talk about the sleeve chef,
sure.
which I find fascinating because you've taken a problem you had, and through your solution, you're trying to help others, I assume.
Absolutely.
So the Sleeve Chef is a diet program, a cookbook. What is it?
So we are really an instructional website / Facebook page that's really meant to demystify cooking for bariatric patients and really anyone looking to eat healthier, right? So I think that's sort of a big challenge in society is that the portion sizes have become so big. And we're so misguided. Like, oh, I'm going to go to the fast food. I'm going to go to the chain restaurant, and I'm going to have a salad, and I'm going to eat healthy. Those salads will have 1,000 calories, 1,100 calories in them, and you're thinking, oh, I'm just having a salad. I'm okay. And so, for me, my real goal is to simplify that process for people, to show them that you can eat a ton of great food post bariatric surgery and still lose weight, still get healthy, and not really feel like that you're like, oh great, I'm going to eat boiled chicken and hard boiled eggs for the rest of my life, and it's just going to be miserable. I love to eat. I love to eat, and one of my main concerns was, pre-surgery was, man, what can I'm not going to be able to eat anything, post-surgery, and that's just not true. Once I started looking over the nutritional guidelines, I was like, man, I can eat cheese. I could eat cheese. It was great. I could eat cheese, in very small amounts.
Sure. Okay.
But I could still eat cheese, and it was one of those things. I'm like, man, this is great. I'm like, okay, I can have a filet mignon with blue cheese, and it's 25 grams of protein, but it's a 4-ounce portion of steak. It's
just talk about it. A 4-ounce would be.
Yep.
You're in the restaurant business.
Yeah, 4 ounces. It's sort of like a hockey puck.
Okay.
It's, that's sort of that size.
Well, which some high-end restaurants would give you that kind of a portion.
Right, exactly.
And then paint all over the plate.
Exactly, right.
Okay, so we're talking smaller servings.
Sure, right, absolutely. And so you'll get, a 4-ounce cut of meat, and that's where it's really important. That's one of the things we stress is that choosing the right cuts of meat, right? So for example, like ground beef. Traditional ground beef it's called 80-20, so it's 80% muscle, 20% fat. And what you want to do is, like, it's a 4-ounce piece of, 4 ounces of that is going to have 25 grams of protein in it, but it's just going to have a lot more fat. So what you want to do to eat healthier, it's very simple, is buy lean ground beef. So buy something that's 93%, 7%. So you'll buy healthier ground beef and really avoid sort of the fast food chains, because you're like, oh, well, a burger, what's the difference between I eat a burger here versus a burger at a fast food chain? And the difference is that there's a lot more sodium and a lot more preservatives that go into the ground beef that the fast food chain would serve you than if you buy it at a grocery store where it's literally ground meat and ground fat that's been just ground up and packaged.
I never thought about the fact that my fast food burger probably isn't lean ground beef.
No. It's high in sodium.
I get the sodium part of it, but I'm floored because I always just sort of figured it was the best ground beef.
Sure, no, it's I mean, they'll buy, they'll buy cheap ground, they'll buy lower quality meat,
right,
and grind it up and give it to you.
You buy it by the carload, and something.
Exactly.
All right. Someone commented that the recipes are healthy and flavorful. So
exactly.
someone's been there and
yes, thank you for the comment.
There.
Yes.
So when we mentioned flavorful, salt is the best flavoring in this country that ever uses. I haven't used it in years, but it's still in the food I eat. I know that. But so how do we make our food flavorful and not bad for us?
Sure, well, that's a great question. So a lot of that has to do with the cooking techniques, right? So for example, sautéing versus deep fat frying, right? Deep fat frying, if you take a chicken breast and you butterfly a chicken breast and you hit it with extra virgin olive oil, salt and pepper, and you sauté it, right? Proper sauté, it's a little to no color. You cook it, it's still juicy, still tender. Versus if you batter it and deep fry it, of course, is going to have much higher fat content, right? Versus the sauté. So that's really the key thing, I think, is really those cooking techniques that you use that are actually lower fat, that will give you a lower fat content, but still deliver a delicious, healthy product.
Okay, so you have recipes on thesleevechef.com,
correct,
by the way.
Yep.
Do you have more on that site, or is it basically recipes?
Oh, we do. So we've got instructional videos, and then we also have the recipes as well. And then you can always contact us as well and reach out and with questions and what have you about the different recipes that we may have. About, well, can I eat this? I can't eat that. how do you recommend cooking a certain thing, what have you.
What's one food that's missing from the sleeve chef that you haven't put on there because it's not going to work for you? But
That's a very good question. Let me think about this. So I would say a lot of more of the traditional French recipes. So you think of stuff like foie gras, for example, right? If you really want to get technical. So foie gras is a fatty liver. That's what foie gras is. And so it's
it wouldn't be on my recipe site either.
right. So it's really high in fat. There's not a lot of protein in it. You can say stuff like ossobuco is not in there. Which again is a veal shank that's braised for a very long period of time.
Okay.
So again, what's really important to focus on. What we focus on is the fat to protein ratio of the protein that we're cooking.
Okay. I was hoping for some sort of miracle food I could avoid and get better without without going to surgery or whatever. Last time I lost weight, by the way, we did some sort of routine where we had a kale purge, or yeah, I had nothing but kale for
And
like
those-
3 weeks.
Yeah, and that can be. I mean, that can be good. That's sort of
No, it
very
wasn't.
short term. Well, let's be honest, right? Come on.
I lost weight.
Of course, well,
Yeah.
because your calorie count was so low.
Yeah, well.
But you didn't get a lot of, lot of protein, and that's really the focus for me has really been post surgery has been proper calorie count, proper protein content, and just sort of simplifying the process.
Okay. You're a success now. You've been. How long is it post surgery?
So it's actually almost. I'm a little over a year. My year was on September 2nd.
Okay.
I actually did the Charles 12 miler on September 2nd on the year of my on my 1 year anniversary.
Congratulations!
Thank
yeah,
you. As
yeah. Or could you have done that before?
Oh no, no way.
Okay.
No way. Maybe if you had tied a little piece of Twinkie or something in front of me, then it kept going. But no. But yeah, it was. So I decided to do the Charles 12 miler. As a sort of a celebration, if you will, of that 1 year of success, and doing the Run GBMC really helped build me up to doing those miles and being comfortable doing that. And so again, that's where the exercise is. It's just like anything else. It's just like the eating process. Even if you didn't exercise pre-surgery, starting slow and building up is honestly the best way to do it. Right? You get out and you go for a walk.
Okay. As a success, do you still worry that you're going to gain your weight back?
Every day.
Okay.
Every day. But I'm able to sort of squash that concern by focusing and staying on my habit, right? Saying I'm going to get up, I'm going to have this for breakfast, I'm going to have this for lunch, I'm going to have this for dinner. I'm really going to focus on that habit and then give myself that little, 5% of I'm going to have a little chocolate bar. I'm only going to have one. That way it's going to help curtail that temptation to have more.
Okay. I'm fascinated that you still worry about it.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that, and I think it's a healthy concern, honestly. I really do. I think it's a healthy concern. I think that we all have fear, right? Fear is a great motivator.
Mm-hmm.
Fear is a great motivator, and that's what this is. This is I see pictures of myself a year ago, 2-3 years ago. I'm like, man, I never want to be that person. I never want to get back to that. I'm here for a reason, and I remind myself that if the old habits start to creep in, I could very easily find myself
Sure. Okay.
heading that way again.
I've wondered about that because 3 years, I've been retired for 3 years. I still have work nightmares. So I know that kind of thing doesn't go
don't
away.
worry. I still hear the printer from the restaurant in my dreams.
Thank you, Michael Salamon.
Don, pleasure.
Okay, again, it is theslevechef.com. I'm going to go back and look at it.
Thank you.
And I'm sure everybody here should. I should say that coming up on the 13th of the month, I'll be here again at 2 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon, and we'll be talking about fractures and osteoporosis. Hopefully by then I won't have any experience with either, but we'll see. So thank you for being with us today. Again, Facebook Live from GBMC.
Thank you very much, everybody.